Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. We've actually got a nice day here. It's 40 degrees. It's the winter time. As you can see, I've got snow behind me. Got a little bit of ice on the bank, but I think we'll be able to push that away for today's video. And I was up at the house just going through tackle. I'm trying to clean everything up for next year's season. I got to my frog box, and one of the things I found was just this older frog that just has a mess of a tail that's all sticky and clumped together, and it's just a beaten up frog. But the thing is, the body of it is still in good, useful condition. So I'm going to show you how to create a little bit of a contraption that will turn this old frog into a new bait that will work really well for you and give your frog a whole different appearance. It's something that I call the frog rat, and I've been having a lot of luck with it since I started playing around with a new piece of terminal tackle this year. And before I get into it and share this with you, I want to remind you guys to check out the lake breakdowns that I do at fishthemoment.com. Also, I'm doing virtual lessons where you can have direct contact with me through like a Zoom call for an hour to ask me whatever questions that you want. We can talk about the frog rat if that's something that you want to do, but check that out. All of the links are in the video description. Also, if you want to support the channel, please use my Tackle Warehouse affiliate link, which is also in the video description. And I'll put links to the baits that I'm using today so that you guys can find the exact items and do this yourself. All right, so the first thing I've got here is just an old beaten up frog. This thing caught me a bunch of fish, but is not going to work like this anymore. Now, I could just replace the skirt material. I've done videos to show you how to replace the tails with different things, everything from new rubber skirts to blades to Flashaboo. I'll put a link to that at the end of this video. But in this case, what I'm going to do is just remove that old skirt material. So I'm just going to take my scissors to it and cut it off right at the back end. Now, you could pull it out if you wanted to pull it out. In this case, I'm just removing it quickly. I mean, you can see it's just a sticky mess. So at this point, I've got a body that's still good, but it's not, it's not all that attractive right now. It's just a hollow-bodied frog. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use one of these decoy cup rigs, which I've talked about before, to add some motion to this bait. So this is just a cup rig that you add onto your line. Now in this case, I've got here my braided line that I would use with a frog. I'm gonna put the cup on, so all you gotta do is take your hook. Now in this case, I just tied a hook on. I'm gonna remove this, but you take your hook, you take the, find the hole and slide the cup rig over the hook, as you can see, and I'll slide that up onto my line now. So I pulled it up over the eye, it's on my line. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this hook off because the whole purpose of that hook was just simply to allow me to get the cup on. Take the hook off. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie my frog on. I like to use a polymer knot, so I'm just going to tie a quick polymer knot. All right, so now I'm going to slide the nose down to the bait, and I pulled it up over the nose, or the hook eye. So in this case, you can see I slid the cone back down over the eye. So it's off of my line back onto the eye of the frog. And at this point, now what I'll do is I've just got hopefully I don't drop it. I've just got here a hitchhiker. And the hitchhiker, I'm gonna slide over one of the hooks, just like that. And I'm going to take, in this case, I've got a Z-Man. This is just a floating worms, but you can use pretty much any worm. In this case, because it's a frog and I want my bait to be high up, I'm using the floating worms, and I'm just gonna screw that on to my hitchhiker. All right, so I've got my floating worms on, I've got my cup rig on my old frog, and this is gonna give us a rat-like motion. Let's go down to the water so you can check it out. All right, so we've got our frog rat here. We're gonna make a couple of casts so you can see what it looks like. We've got some ice I had to push out of the way. Hopefully we'll make it work. So you can see the bait has a nice good wobble to it. The tail is kicking. I mean, it's basically like a topwater rat right now. Just a good change of pace. It changes it up. The nice thing you can do with this is fish around heavy slops, some floating grass. You can see it just wobbles. Now I will say, to get it to run right, you want to keep your rod tip down. You want that cone, the cup rig, to be catching enough water to get it to wobble back and forth, just like it's doing right now. And then you can stop it if you want. You can twitch it, you can work it like a popper, you can make it walk the dog back and forth. Gives you just a whole different look to a classic frog style bait. Just a fun thing to do. Again, another good use for the cup rig. Turn your frogs into a wake bait, turn it into a rat, do whatever. Now I want to show you one other thing that you can do with this cup rig too. If you just use it with the floating worm, that looks good too. So let's show you that. So in this case, I just took the cup rig, slid it onto a worm hook, and then slid the floating worms on it. And you can see you get really good snake-like motion out of that thing with a floating worm. It keeps it nice and high. You can stop it, twitch it. The tail will keep it kind of floating there. That's one reason I like the floating worm on this. It just keeps it nice and high. It gives a floating worm just that snake-like appearance. Changes it up a little bit. Just a nice simple motion. You can twitch it good, but it just changes it. It's just not more of that swimming snake-like motion that you don't get with a lot of baits. So just another simple thing to do, the cup rig. I figured I'd show it to you while I was showing you the frog rat. Something you can do with the cup rig and a way to bring your frogs back to life. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the video. You can see a couple of ways to use that cup rig. One just with a floating worm, another to bring your frogs back to life. I figured I'd come down, be able to use the river still while I can. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.